endowments, the necessary classes, so I could become state certified as a peer advocate specialist to help other people in recovery. Also, I'm volunteering at the Church House, along with working at Gardenzia and managing the House of Hope. So I'm pretty much a busy guy.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. And how do you enjoy working with recovering individuals, knowing that you've been there, done that?
Well, it gives me a sense of a deep sense of gratitude to be able to give back what was freely given to me. What I really enjoy is seeing somebody that I've helped along the way, and Mr. Kevin, I'm still doing okay, or I see them and they got that glow about them, or they shining, or whatever the case may be. I just like to it just gives me a feeling of gratitude and of self-worth to believe it helps somebody.
Well, somewhere I read it says that my gratitude speaks when I care and when I share with others. And it's important for us to share the goodness of God to other persons. As a matter of fact, somewhere I heard they said, when A helps B, A helps A the most. When A helps B, A helps A the most. In other words, the Bible teaches us in Luke 6:38, it says it like this: given, it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. The same measure that you give is the same measure that you shall receive. During the past couple of weeks, my wife had the opportunity of going to Brigham Young University in Utah. It's a Mormon university, and she was reading a newspaper there, and she brought me back an article, and it says, "Dad finds peace after son died of overdose." And it's a terrible thing when your family member dies. But what was so interesting about this article was that this man's son, a 20-year-old, was left dead in a driveway of a friend's house. The father says he is hoping that his son's death will encourage other parents to do more when they see signs of drug abuse in their families. Kevin, it's a terrible thing when you find out that your son or your daughter or a relative, a husband or wife, is using a drink or drug uncontrollably, especially today. I was talking with a recovering addict the other day, and we were talking about marijuana, how marijuana is much more powerful today than it was years ago. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, well, they have these different types of marijuana nowadays, these exotic marijuanas, and a lot of the youth call them loud, and it gives us a stronger, pungent odor that even if they're not even smoking it, you can smell it just in passing. If you walk past somebody, you can smell it, and I don't know if they spraying it with anything, or I think they crossbreeding it, or whatever they may be doing to it, but it's a lot more stronger, and it seemed like it's doing more physical damage than it done when I was smoking weed back in the early 80s.
Well, one of the things that this individual said to me, and they said that today young people are smoking it all day long, and it's doing something to the brain cells. It's doing something to the educational level, to the ability to learn, because marijuana or any other drugs put you in a catatonic kind of a state. And this man, his name is Palmer. He got a call, it says, on August 27th, telling him that his son had overdosed and was lying in an acquaintance's driveway. He attempted CPR himself, but he realized that his son was already dead. That can be a very traumatic experience. I can imagine finding your child dead. I recall some years ago when I was pastoring a church, pastoring a United Methodist Church. She wasn't a young woman, but a lady in my church. She had a couple of sons, and one of her sons was shooting heroin, and she knew it. And I was talking with her about it, and she said, "Well, Reverend, he lives in my house. He lives in the basement. He was a grown man. He was somewhere around in his 30s or 40s." And she said to me, "I would much rather have him living in my house using drugs than for him to be out in the street or someplace and I don't know where he is." Well, about 2 weeks later, on a Sunday morning before she was coming to church, she went down into the basement where her son was, And on the way down in the basement, she found her son dead on the steps from an overdose of heroin. The question is, what do we do when we find our own children using a drink or a drug? This article says that Mr. Palmer knew that his son was using drugs prior to his death. It says his son started abusing alcohol and prescription drugs in high school. And in the weeks before his death, Jeremy Palmer became addicted to cocaine, heroin, and meth, meaning methadone. And he died of an overdose of morphine. I tell you, they've got some drugs out there today that they're mixing that I didn't even know about. But it said that he had an overdose because he took 300 milligrams of morphine and inhaled canned air. Have you ever heard of canned air?
I'm vaguely familiar with it. I believe it's almost like helium that you put in balloons.
Yes.
And for some kind of situation, like any kind of inhalant that's compressed and it comes out. Young people are now using this to get high.